it's me. I'm back. And I did not make a video last month because I spent most of the month, arguably all of the month, reading books. 15 to be exact. And instead of making a video about all of the words that I wrote last year, which I just still am not ready to talk about because I'm recovering from it. That's all I'm going to say about that. I read a lot. And I want to show you what I read because I care about that and because you might be looking for book recommendations. And also, I tend to read like a very strange variety of books, and I think that's super important. So if you're trying to get interested in like more genres, maybe this will help you do that. And please ignore the empty spaces in my bookshelves in the background because I have to show you the books and they're all sitting here, but not where they usually are. So just get over it. Reading is very, very important, especially for writers, because reading shows you a lot about not only the world, but storytelling in general. And even when you're not writing, it is super beneficial to feed your mind with other people's words. So if you, like me, are trying to do more of that this year, maybe I can help you by holding you accountable and showing you the books that I have read. The first 4 books I read, admittedly, I read very quickly because I had to. Didn't have to. I chose to for a podcast that I was a guest on. Why could I not word that correctly? So the books that we read and discussed were the last 4 books in the Republic Commando series. Why? That is the name of the book series. We read the last 4 of them. Technically, they're the last 3 books in the Republic Commando series, and then the first and only book in the Imperial Commando series. Why was that so hard to get through? I read these books a long time ago, and it was so long ago that I didn't remember most of the things that happened in them, so it was really enjoyable to get to read them again, and even more enjoyable to get to talk with my friends about them. If you're interested in listening to our conversations about that, you can. It's a Patreon exclusive podcast, so you would have to give UT some of your funds if you wanted to listen to that, but worth it. So do it because they're amazing, and so are these books. Let's just continue with the Star Wars theme here. I also read it before The Awakening, which was released as part of the publishing initiative that came before The Force Awakens in 2015. Why am I reading this now instead of before the movie came out 4 years ago? Well, you know what? I don't know. That's just how it happened. But this actually is my favorite one of this like little series that they did. They did these little they're really short. They're like this big. You could call them young adult. I would call them more like for middle grade readers. Technically, they're like a little bit simpler, but that doesn't mean that they're not good to read. But you can get through. But you can get through them very quickly. You could probably read this on like a Saturday. I like this one because it introduces you to Rey and Finn and Poe, and kind of like really shows you who they are and where they're at as you're coming into the movie to meet them for the first time. So it was perfect for when they released it, and it served its purpose. So my favorite of these little really short young adult stories that they released, there are no more. This is the last one that I read, and that's it. So they will not probably release more unless they do the same kind of initiative with future movies, but I don't think they will. Let's wrap up the Star Wars. There's a dog. Hi. Just because I'm talking doesn't mean you can bother me. Can you go lay down, please? Hi, baby. It's not time for you to be awake right now, okay? Do you want to say hi to the people? Come here. Come up. Come say hi to the people. Come on. Say hi. Say hello. Yes, say hello to the people. Yes. Oh, she did it. Okay, now you go down and you go sleep, okay? Mama's got to finish filming her video, okay? You wait for me? Can you lay down and wait? Because Mama's got to talk about books. Let's finish up the Star Wars really quick because, like, if you're not into Star Wars books, you probably don't care about this. So we'll move on. I also read Heir to the Empire, which is known within, like, the Star Wars Legends community as like one of the most important Star Wars books that was released, and in a way kind of like established the market for there being more Star Wars books. it was interesting going back and reading this after seeing the sequel trilogy and all the new books. But I have read Legends before, and interesting story, only the first of 3 in the trilogy. She wants me to pet her really bad. So definitely recommend if like you want to get into Star Wars books. This is one of like the foundational ones that is often recommended and that Utini recommends. I'm not going to keep plugging Utini even though I do work for them, and I'm going to seek out any opportunity whatsoever to do that. I had been waiting to read How to Be Everything for a while. It's been sitting on my shelf not for too long, but I've known about it. This is a nonfiction book about what happens when you are interested in doing multiple things and you're kind of trying to figure out how to balance that in your work and in your life. Super helpful for me, kind of. I won't say it like changed my life. I won't say it like changed my life or anything, but it has made me think a lot more about how I want to structure my life. She agrees. She liked it too. Yes, chew on your bone. Great idea. If you've never watched my videos before, this is very typical. You're just gonna get a lot of husky, okay? Not from me, from this beast that's now sitting on my foot. I have known for a while that I am a multi-potentialite. That is actually a lot harder to say quickly than I expected it to be. I've always been interested in doing a lot of different things, as evidenced by all the different things that I am always doing. It helps to be reminded that I am not alone, and neither are you. So if you are someone who has felt like they could never choose between like one thing, this book really might help you out. So check it out. I have to remember to like hold it up and give you some context, because I'm sorry for the background noise. If you are not aware, John Green has started a book club that duels as a way to give to charity, which is fantastic. You pay a little bit every month, or in my case yearly. It's up to you when you pay and how you pay and how much you pay depending on what you want. But you pay monthly, let's say, and you'll get a book every 6 weeks. And this is the one that we got for this past shipment. All proceeds for the book club go to Partners in Health. Super important what they're doing right now. I will put a link in the description that kind of goes over why they need donations and why you should give to them, whether you want to be part of the book club or not. Parable of the Sower is a very sad, devastating book. But every once in a while you need that kind of to remind you that like the things that we read about like in dystopian novels and things like that are not that far off from what could become reality. You do have to really like keep your mind on like what is most important and what you're going to kind of dedicate your life to doing in order to better the world. And I was kind of not prepared for how depressing this book was going to be. So you might need to read it like in little pieces, like a chapter at a time, but still worth a read, definitely. Looking forward to further discussing that. I have been a Claudia Gray fan since I first read Lost Stars, which is one of her Star Wars novels. Typically when I become like a fan of a writer's work, especially if it's in a particular like franchise like Star Wars, I like to check out their other books, and that is part of the reason that I started reading the Defy the Stars series. This past month, I read the last 2 books in Claudia Gray's series, Defy the Worlds and Defy the Fates. This is a super interesting trilogy about space. Not just space. It's about space and people and identity and who you value and who is treated as worthy, and what happens when we die, and who do we become when we die or not. I didn't do the best job of explaining it, but it's about a pilot and someone that she meets after she gets lost in space, and kind of their romance, but also their struggle. It's a lot more than a romance novel, though. There's romance in it, and that's kind of like a central part of it, but it's super interesting. and futuristic. And if you like science fiction and you like Claudia Gray, or either of those things or both, definitely worth it. It took me a while to get through them just because they are kind of long, but extremely well written, and she's very, very good at writing good, likable, and unlikable characters. So if you need a book with like really interesting people about really interesting human-centric things, or not human things in some cases, no spoilers, you will love this trilogy, and you'll love her books, I think, in general. Speaking of authors that I found thanks to Star Wars, this is Anyone by Charles Soule. And why am I saying it like that? I don't know. It's just the voice that I felt like using, and all of you won't stop talking about how much you love my voice. I love Charles Soule's writing, especially in the comics that I've read by him. This book is super sci-fi, super like body swap, death, what happens when you die. Is there like some kind of theme in the books that I'm reading? This book caught my eye not just because of Charles Soule, but because it is about a woman who is trying to discover a cure for dementia, which is something that's always been pretty interesting to me. I used to write about it a lot when I was writing about health at my job, which I don't do anymore, which is fine. I do have a degree though. I do need to use that at some point. But if you like sci-fi thrillers, my voice is going. This is just the kind of content that you're gonna get today. If you like super fast-paced, page-turning thrillers, set in the future or not so distant future, depending on what part of the timeline you're on, go for it. Big Little Lies is a series that I have not watched because I don't have HBO, but I wanted to start with the book, and man, the book made me want to watch the show, but also not, because it's very like, how do I want to word this? It starts out with, you find out that there's been a murder, but you don't know who it is, and then you backtrack, and there are all these families and these moms and all these kids are in the same school, and along the way as the story is going on, you kind of get hints to like who doesn't like each other, who is, is holding a grudge against another person, who's getting along, who's not, who might be having affairs, and at the end you find out which one of this big group of parents essentially has died, and how that happens. And as the book title suggests, there's a lot of lying and bad things that happen, but if you like drama, there's a lot of drama. So if you like that, I guess if you're really into like certain like reality TV where like people are just like fighting about affairs, maybe you like this. I liked it just because like I don't usually read books like this, so I wanted to try something a little bit different that was a little bit like outside of like something that I'm usually interested in, and I'm happy that I made that choice. Can you chill out, please? I haven't been counting off, and maybe I should have been, but this is number 13. Not number 13 that I read in order, but just like the this is how the stack was. This is Bob Iger's memoir. He is the CEO of Disney, like the entire corporation, and this is kind of his like inside scoop of like how certain things happen, how he came to be in charge of the company, how he worked his way up in Disney. Talks a little bit about the Star Wars acquisition, and that was pretty interesting. Not the only reason that I picked it up, but obviously was interested in hearing that, but that's only one chapter, so like if you're interested just in the Star Wars portion, like you could probably find the info that you want elsewhere, like on Reddit probably, but I think it's really interesting if you're interested in like the inside stories of like how Disney works business wise. It is like a business book. Like he tries to teach you like business, not teach. He kind of like goes through like this is how, a good leader runs a company, and it's kind of like broken up like that, but he does tell stories that can be interesting if you're like interested, I'm using that word a lot, in the goings-on behind closed doors at Disney. I listened to the audiobook, as I did with many of these. I like doing that with nonfiction just because sometimes you can space out a little bit when you're reading nonfiction, but like for memoirs especially, if the writer is reading it, that's what, when I read Anthony Daniels' memoir, I think I liked it a lot more than I would have if I would have just read it, but it kind of, he was reading it to me, so it was more interesting. I read that last month, so I'm not going to talk about it now, but if you want to read more nonfiction, but you kind of are struggling with that, I would definitely recommend trying audiobooks and seeing if that kind of helps you out. Because that's how I ended up saving a lot of time this last month reading a lot. Such a Fun Age was Nerdette's book club pick of this past month, so I read it before they released their episode on the 31st about it. I am very obviously not qualified to speak on a lot of the topics addressed here in this book from like the perspective of someone who is not white. Such a Fun Age is about privilege. That is like, that's it. A white family, particularly a white woman, it focuses on her for part of it, hires a black woman to babysit her child. She's not technically their nanny, but she might as well be. And it starts out with her, she's a black woman and she is in a grocery store with a white child very late at night for reasons. And some other shoppers are a little bit concerned about that. So that's fun. That's how it starts, and it kind of goes from there. If you kind of need to be reminded of your own privilege, as I do on occasion, reading more books like this is super important. Don't just stick to books that are about subjects that make you comfortable. We need to read, as a general population, not just my population specifically, definitely need to read more books that make us uncomfortable in a way that will make us think deeper about the way that we exist in this world. Highly recommend Such a Fun Age and other books by this author. I haven't looked into what else she has written, unfortunately. I will link do more of her things, if there are any. I don't know if this is a debut novel or not. I didn't prepare for this video. Read other books like this, not just about race or privilege, but just about things that you are less familiar with but need to be reminded of, because this world is not just about the things that you touch in your daily life and the things that you go through in your own experiences. It's about the other people you encounter and how you interact with them, and you know what? That's all I'm gonna say about that, because yeah. When I was searching for books to buy to read in January, I have plenty of books that I haven't read yet. Why am I buying more? Because because I'm 27 and I do what I want. Amazon recommended to me, based on my previous purchases, Jane Anonymous, which is about a teenager who is kidnapped, and part of the book takes place after she comes back and she's trying to reacclimate herself to the world after being gone for 7 months in captivity. 7 months in captivity, I think it was. Yeah, I think she was kept for a while, not quite a year, I don't think. It's fictional, by the way, but the flashbacks, in part of her dealing with this trauma and looking back on it, are her kind of like detailing like what happened that day that she was taken, and also like what happened to her while she was there. Obviously very disturbing. This is not a true story in itself, but it does have a lot of real world themes, and is probably based on real things that have happened to real people, so keep that in mind. I always really appreciate it when books that are about trauma feature scenes that are about therapy and counseling. In some circles, it's still, for some reason, still super taboo to like even talk about the fact that you see a therapist or go to counseling or anything like that. Whatever you want to call it, whatever you're comfortable with calling it, I suppose. Mental health care is, it shouldn't be taboo. Mental health is just as important as physical health, and we're not ashamed to talk about how we went to the doctor because our foot hurts. So we shouldn't be ashamed to talk about how we're not feeling great lately and we need to go talk to somebody about it. It's you're still taking care of your body, just a different part of it. You're still taking care of yourself. It shouldn't be something that we are hesitant to talk about. So there was some of that in here, and I really appreciate that. This is a really good book, again, to get you to think about the world and especially about how to interact with people whose experiences you don't understand. Jane is the main character in the book. The one who was kidnapped. She has a friend who, when she comes back, and she's trying to, like, her mom's like trying to get her to hang out with her, and there's a point where she's like, well, like, I was really sad while you were gone, or like, I was devastated that we didn't know where you were. I don't remember the exact quote, but the whole thing was like, I can only say, like, how I feel, and I don't understand how you feel, but I don't know how to express that properly. So yeah, very extremely well written, and I got through this pretty fast. It's not that long. Don't ever judge, like, the value of a book on, like, its length or, like, its print size or anything like that. Don't judge a book by the way it looks, by its title, even by what it's about. Just, like, every once in a while, I think you just need to, like, pick a random book and just give it a try, because, like, it's okay to not like a book. It's okay to stop reading a book if you don't like it. But there have been, like, plenty of books that I have picked up, like, Big Little Lies, where I'm like, what if I don't like this book? The same thing happened when I read Crazy Rich Asians. I was like, I have heard that this book is pretty hard to get through, and it super was. I almost didn't get through it, but, like, again, I switched to the audiobook, and it was much more tolerable. Not every book is for everyone. When a writer writes a book, it's for a specific audience, and, you know, that audience can't be everyone. You just kind of have to try different things, and, like, if you want to expand your reading horizons, then you just have to, you know, be brave, I guess, and try different things. If you would like to know what my favorite book out of the 15 that I read last month is, you can head over to Not a Book Hoarder on Instagram, which is my book Instagram account, where I sometimes review books and sometimes just take pretty pictures of books, you know, all things about books all the time. By the time this video goes up, I will have posted my favorite book from January and my thoughts on it. You can check that out, feel free. I almost said to subscribe. I mean, you know, whatever you want to call it. Everyone's just following each other at this point. Also, if you would like to know how in the world I read 15 books in a single month, because it's a lot, linked down below in the description, I have a post that I wrote about how I read 15 books in January. You know, if you're interested in reading more and kind of conquering some of the barriers that often face people who want to read more, like time and not feeling like it, check that out as well. I'm just going to promote all the things today, like this channel. I'm not making any promises for how often I'm going to post on this channel this year, at least toward the beginning, because I just don't know. It's all going to depend on what else I'm working on. I have some projects in the works that I want to make sure that I don't just kind of leave to the side. If you like writing, if you like books, if you're just interested in like what the life of a typical writer is like, that's the kind of stuff you're going to get from me if you stick around. If you have any questions about writing specifically that I can help answer in a video or a blog post, please let me know in the comments below. I've gone off the rails. Friends, that is it. We filmed the video all about books. I need to stop reading so many books so these videos aren't so long. Happy reading, happy writing, happy life. And I will see you in the next video. Whenever that is. Bye!